Did Deion Sanders just land his next superstar and first star running back? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bourba. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow so you don't miss out on any of our Colorado coverage. Joining me today is my FCS insider, Zach McKennell. Zach, you cover all things FCS for various places, and I figured what better way to discuss three of Colorado's most intriguing transfers than with you. So thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you, man. Always love hopping on the show. It's been a while since we've been on here, and excited to chop it up about these FCS guys.
Yeah, I think you do a great job really following the FCS in its entirety. I think, and this probably is going to sound stupid to you, but for some people that don't really register how much or how involved you are with the FCS, like Zach covers the FCS probably as well as anyone, as deep as anyone. He could probably name almost every team's starting 11 on both sides of the ball. So he knows a little thing or two about the FCS level. Zach, let's talk about Colorado's one of their top transfers, and the one that I'm pretty excited about, DeKalon Taylor, 5'9", 166, running back, 152 carries for 909 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry last season. He also made an impact in the return game and the receiving game. And here's my theory. I think he could be Colorado's first star running back. And I say this because Colorado hasn't had a star running back, right? We talked about it off air. Deion Sanders has yet to have a 100-yard rusher in Boulder. I think both years their leading rusher at Colorado had like 300 and some change, right? Which is, there's guys who are doing that in a game sometimes. So what do you think DeKalon Taylor can bring to this team? Do you think he has that star potential?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, he was supposed to be kind of like the featured guy in Incarnate Word this upcoming year, who's going to be a really, really good team. I just think for DeKalon, I think what Colorado probably had to sell him on, because the reason I think he transferred when he did, right, because he didn't go in the first window, which is when you see a lot of top FCS guys go. Incarnate Word was bringing DeKalon back, was bringing Lontrell Turner back, and on top of that, too, added another All-American running back from conference rival Nicholls State. So you look at that room, he was probably looking like, I'm going to be the feature guy, but now look at all the carries I'm going to have to split. And they have 3 1,000-yard receivers coming back. So only one football. I think this was the best move for DeKalon. I think what he brings that a lot of other running backs in the portal don't is just his versatility and how he can be used. You know, even when he's not running the football in between the tackles, he can catch out the backfield. He's an impact guy on special teams. His first 2 years in Incarnate Word was the primary kick returner. Last year was the primary punt returner, along with the starting running back. You can line him up outside and 5 wide. He's athletic enough to hold his own out there against some of the top safeties, corners, linebackers, depending on what you put on him. But I do think he's got the one thing I do question for him is, can he be a 25, 30 carry guy? I don't know, just because of his size. But if you're looking for an explosive option out the backfield, DeKalon Taylor's your guy. And I really do think with how creative Colorado likes to be with their offense, he really fits the mold of a guy who's going to be very successful in Boulder.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that a lot of Colorado fans are looking forward to this year is obviously losing Shedeur Sanders, one of the best quarterbacks in the country last year. Big deal, right? It's detrimental. I think he and Travis Hunter masked a lot of the issues that this team had, such as the worst offensive line in college football, the worst run game in college football. So now that he's gone, it's like a bittersweet thing, because it's like, okay, we just lost one of our best players, one of the best players in the sport, but now our offense has to like make adjustments, has to get better in other aspects. And so I think they have a good room of running backs. They have Dallin Hayden, who transferred in from Ohio State. They have Michael Welch, who was a 3-star recruit that sort of burst on the scene a little bit last year. But no guy has really claimed that top spot and been like, hey, I could be the bell cow. And so I think DeKalon comes into a running back room unlike the one that you were talking about over there in San Antonio, correct? If I'm not mistaken, in San Antonio, where it's one of those things where he was going to have to split carries, where in Colorado, if he wins the job, he can be the guy and just have some reinforcements with him, because both Micah and Dallin are sort of bruisers. Whereas DeKalon, he's a speedster, right? I think the one highlight clip everyone posted as soon as he committed was his 97, 94-yard touchdown run, where after I think he got past the linebackers, no one touched him. No one was within 10 yards of him. So he brings a new dynamic, and you talked about his special teams ability. Colorado wanted more of that. Deion Sanders said we need someone who can make an impact in the kick return, punt return, and he does all of that. And so I think, and that's why I'm very adamant about him having star potential, he just has the mixture of everything Colorado is looking for. Now, in your opinion, knowing what I say now, which is they have a couple running backs, but no one's claimed the job, and they need to run the ball more. They have Caden Salter, who's probably an RPO, probably going to help out in the RPO. Where do you think he fits in?
I think he could be a starter. I'll say this: I'll be shocked if he's not at least a starter on special teams. I would be mind blown if he's not the starting kicker, punt returner. But in terms of running back room, I think he's probably the 1A at worst 1B guy. And like just you said, you guys have two bruisers in the backfield that are really going to make their hay in between the tackles. DeKalon's going to live on the outside, and he's a perfect complement to what you guys already have. And I would say that he's probably got a spot locked up, and then the other two guys in Micah and the other returner you mentioned, those guys are probably fighting for the other running back spot. Most offenses run through two running backs, right? You really, unless you have like Ashton Genty or someone like that, you would like to have two. You look at what Ohio State did really well with Quinshawn Junkins and Travion Henderson. When you get DeKalon with one of the bruisers, that's kind of the balance you get where you have a guy who can be your every down in between the tackles back and a big play hitter, which you kind of got with Junkins. The underrated part of DeKalon's game, though, you mentioned it, you hear the height and weight, and you're like, well, man, if he gets hit, he's probably going down on first contact. He's probably not a guy who's going to run through people. He still had almost 600 yards after contact last year. So he was really good at making the first guy miss and getting yards after contact. And on top of that, too, he averaged over 6 yards per carry, really lived off the edge. But even when they did run him in between the tackles, he still was getting 4 to 6 yards per pop, which is what you want to see. I would say don't be fooled by his height and weight, because that's you get that with Burners. He's a lot more physical behind the he brings some physicality behind the pads that you don't get a lot with undersized guys.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. You say he has like over 600 yards after contact. Colorado's leading rusher had 384 yards total rushing last year. So they do need a burst. Let's go into your FCS roots, right? You were right then and there when Deion was hired at Jackson State. You were front and center for all of that. How will he have to change his personal philosophy to lean on the run game more? Because, I mean, tell the people the stat that we talked about off air.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he only had like 6 or 7 games at Jackson where they had a 100-yard rusher. But it's funny enough because the only year we really saw him without Shador and Travis was that COVID season, and it was so weird, right? Because for that Jackson team, I don't think they really showed much. You only played probably 4 or 5 games, and all those players were ineligible. Shiloh, Shador, Travis obviously wasn't there yet, but then you look like their whole starting D line that you saw come in the fall was all ineligible. All these guys had to sit out due to the transfer rule, or they played in the fall season, right? Because the FCS was moved to the spring. I would say I think you're going to see a little bit more balance. But on the same hand, Caden Salter is very experienced. You mentioned he's more of kind of like that RPO type, coming from like that Liberty, Hugh Freeze based scheme over there. I still think Caden Salter is a good enough quarterback where if he matures enough in Deion's eyes, he's not going to be afraid to put the offense on his back as well. And you guys have a lot of talented receivers. One we'll probably talk about later. I still think it'll be more balanced, but I still think the offense runs through Salter, similar to how you saw with Shador. It's just a question of, does Deion and this offensive staff trust Caden like they did Shador to run this offense?
Yeah, one final question about how Deion runs things. He changes a lot of coordinators, right? I said this the other day, and I think I got a little blowback from it, but I was like, I don't think people realize this. I think he's coached for what we'll call it 5 seasons, right? Counting the COVID year. I think he's had 6 or 7 different offensive coordinators. I think this is the first year that he's gone into a season with the same 2 offensive and defensive coordinators. So how big of a year is this for Pat Shurmur?
Very big. I mean, Deion has made it known that if you're not getting it done, he's not afraid to move on. And I mean, heck, even at Jackson, one of the years they went and won the SWAC, went to the Celebration Bowl. That first year, they made an offensive coordinator change mid-season in the midst of them winning. So there's a high standard there, and so I think it's Pat Shurmur's. It's going to be a big test to see if he can keep this job and stay in the program. But I do think it'll be a little bit. Deion might be a little bit more lenient because Kevin, I mean, you know this. Like, he knew exactly how Shador should have been used, and he knew exactly how he wanted to use Travis. And like, he had this idea about how he wanted it to look. Does he have that same idea of how he wants it to look with Caden Salter or Juju Lewis? I
Yeah.
don't know. So I think there might be a little bit more room to work with for Shermer this year than maybe if Shador was coming back for another year.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be pressure. Obviously, I do like the benefit of the doubt angle there because, I mean, completely different roster build, a completely different identity. But it will be interesting to see how long or short of a leash Shermer has. I mean, he demoted Sean Lewis, who was in line to be a head coach, and still ended up being a head coach. So Coach Prime does not care who you are or what you've done, because if you're not doing your job right now, he will move on from you. Let's take a quick break, but we're going to talk about two of the best FCS finds that Colorado had, and probably two of the best FCS finds in the portal in general.